Well, hello. My name is Matt Wood with Antique American Indian Art. Our gallery is up near Seattle, Washington, in the town of Bothell. Today is my Tuesday Talks, and I'm going to talk to you about Southwestern baskets. And this will be just one of several videos on baskets in the Southwest. There's so much to talk about. I just want to give you today some of the most common examples that are found in New Mexico and Arizona. And I'm going to go from one side to the other and try to talk a little bit about each of these baskets and about the tribes and about the materials and how to differentiate one basket from another through that analysis. So starting over here, we have Hopi basketry. There's two primary styles of basketry that the Hopi make. The Hopi live in northern Arizona on 3 flat top mesas and a village down below. The mesas are called first, second, and third mesa. And on third mesa, we see wicker basketry. And wicker basketry is depicted by having a vertical warp and horizontal wefts that are twined through the warps in this fashion. They'll make a number of forms. This large form here is a peach basket, or a carrying basket for food. They'll also make trays like this. These baskets are also used as a source of currency amongst the Hopi themselves. In wedding ceremonies, they'll give oftentimes hundreds of baskets as dowry and so forth. The Hopi also make, on second mesa, a coiled basketry, which is woven with yucca stem that's been split and dyed and coiled over a foundation or a bundle of grass. And this is very typical of second mesa basketry. On the bottom, you'll see this large coiled basketry tray. Typically in Hopi coiled basketry, the fatter the coil, the older the basket. This being a very heavy, fat coiled tray, that might help date it back to the turn of the century, whereas a coil that's maybe half the size like this, more likely mid-20th century or even later 20th century. Not a hard and fast rule, but that is a tendency in that direction. So moving from the Hopi baskets, we're going to go to southern Arizona now, and we're going to see the Papago and the Pima, Tucson, Globe, Arizona, Phoenix, that region of Arizona. Those two tribes dominate a lot of the weaving, and they'll normally use, in the older baskets, the pre-1930s baskets for certain, the willow and the devil's claw seed pod husk, which is black. The willow starts out fairly white and over time darkens with age. So examples of these willow and devil's claw baskets, the Pima will do typically a finer work, and this would be a fine Pima, and they'll do a couple different techniques. They'll have a rim finish, and they'll do various rim finishes, a diagonal whip like this. They'll also do a herringbone finish. They usually start their baskets in a very simple fashion, just with a circle. So there's not much to see at the start. There's the back of the basket. Sometimes we flip them over to look. Sometimes we'll put a cross stitch over or two on the start to close up that little hole. But the Pima, in the lighter materials, the willow, the darker is the devil's claw. And with age, it goes from white to this medium brown. Here's a coarser Pima basket. And I brought this out to show you what the inside material looks like. You'll notice that it's a grass foundation, a bundle of little grasses that they've bundled together, and then they can that they can coil over. And you can also see the diagonal rim finish on this basket as well. Contrasting those baskets is a similar basket made by the Papago. A couple of the distinguishing things on the Papago, and might be hard to really see it, but the very start has a square knot start. That tends to be typical of the Papago. Their motifs also tend to be large motifs. Oftentimes, Papago baskets have a large black start. and Pima baskets often have a smaller black start. This is an interesting basket. It's very dirty and it's very stiff and hard basket. You can hear that. It's stiff with food. This was actually used as a winemaking basket for their cactus wine, so that you ferment the cactus juice in this, and they would stir it. And you can actually see the scraping marks of their spoons or sticks as they were stirring their cactus basket, the wine basket called a Tijwin bowl. And another style of Papago basket that dominates after 1930 is a yucca basket. And it's not unlike the material, it's the same material that the Hopi will use, but they do it a little differently. So these are going to be right here examples of Papago yucca baskets. And they're going to be distinguished because they have, oftentimes will be using the same devil's claw that we saw in the finer, older baskets. They also will, but those are going to use the yellow yucca stem, which is very easy to process. Starts out pretty green and becomes more and more yellow with age. So it won't have that rich brown color that the willow gets. They also will make basketry with split stitches, which is a much quicker way to weave a basket, be less costly. We'll see a lot of touristy types of items coming out with turtles and figures. These are all made for sale. Probably the most common basket in the Southwest will be the Papago yucca basketry. And here's a great big one with a lid on it and with some figures on it. And so, again, made for sale. Another commonly found basket is what's known as the Navajo wedding basket. And here's a smaller example and a tiny little example of this pattern that's so common. Navajo will make these. They also trade for them. The Ute make this basket and trade to the Navajo. Oftentimes sumac baskets, sometimes willow, sometimes they'll use mountain mahogany. But the pattern is very classic, has this opening right here, and it's one of their ceremonial baskets in use. They will oftentimes fill this with cornmeal and use it in some of their ceremonies. So you'll see quite a lot of these out there. They're not considered highly collectible unless you get the very early fine darker ones. They're one of the more common baskets as well. Lastly, I just wanted to show you a couple Apache baskets. The Apache look from afar very much like your Pimas or the old Papagos, same materials. The differences, though, will be in the construction of them, as opposed to the bundle of grass foundations that you'll see in the Pima and the Papago baskets. The Apache use sticks, and I've brought a damaged one here to show you so you can see the inside material. These are going to be rods of willow, tend to be, and so when you have a rod basket versus a grass foundation basket, they're generally going to be a little stiffer, and they're usually a little finer in construction. So the stitches are usually smaller, the coil's a little narrower, and they make usually a more refined baskets. The Apache is also a fairly small group, a little bit more rare. So of this group of basketry, the Apaches would be the most desired and collectible one, usually followed by the very fine Pima work, and then the older Papago work, and then the Hopi work, and then the least collectible will be the Papago, newer Papago, and the Navajo wedding trays, by virtue of them also being very, very, there's a lot of quantity out there. There's a lot of these baskets being made today. So these are much more rare. This is a factor of both rarity and as well as availability. And also, of course, execution. Anyway, that's just kind of a very brief overview of some of the tribe's baskets of the Southwest, and we'll bring you more down the line. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to ever follow up with me, visit our website, antiqueamericanindianart.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you just email me from there. Thanks so much.